Ever found yourself chasing a little bonus on a delivery app? Or, getting way too competitive about a leaderboard at work? You probably think you're just having a bit of fun, right? Well, what if you're the one who's actually being played? Today, we are diving deep into the book You've Been Played by Adrian Hahn. And we're going to explore how these game-like systems are being used, well, to control all of us.
Okay, so first up, welcome to the game. But look, we're not talking about your favorite video game here. We're about to jump into the gamification of the one place you might never expect to be playing, your job.
So, just picture this for a second. You're at work, doing some repetitive task, and there's this little game projected right next to you, just constantly pushing you to go faster, to compete. Now, the author argues this isn't really about making your job more enjoyable. It's a tool, a clever trick to boost productivity under the illusion of play.
And it is not just happening in warehouses. The exact same principle applies right here. You've got an Uber driver, totally exhausted, ready to call it a day. But then, ding, he gets a notification for a quest. It's a tiny reward, just a few bucks, but it's just enough to change his behavior and keep him on the road.
And this all brings us to the core idea, gamification. And look, it's not simply about adding a little fun to boring tasks. No, it's a systematic approach. It uses game mechanics to monitor, to influence, and ultimately to control what we do. And we're seeing it pop up everywhere, from corporations to governments and even in schools.
So what's the psychology behind all this control? You might be surprised to hear that this isn't some brand new idea cooked up in Silicon Valley. Actually, the core concepts have been around for more than 100 years.
The critic Alfie Kohn absolutely hits the nail on the head here. This whole system of constant rewards and punishments, it isn't about inspiring us or tapping into our creativity. It's about something called behaviorism, which is basically treating people less like human beings and more like machines that you can just program.
And the godfather of this idea? A guy named B.F. Skinner. His theory of behaviorism basically argues that our actions aren't really driven by our internal thoughts or feelings. Instead, he believed they're shaped entirely by external rewards and punishments. This right here, this is the very foundation of what the author calls generic gamification.
So here we can see the central conflict laid out perfectly. Gamification so often hijacks our motivation. Instead of tapping into our intrinsic drives, our curiosity, our passion, it just layers on all these extrinsic rewards like points and badges. And these can actually make us enjoy things less and turn what should be play into a total grind.
So here's the crucial point. It's how this old-school psychology is being turbocharged with modern technology, creating what is essentially a digital assembly line. It's a concept called digital Taylorism. Think about the stopwatches they used on factory floors a century ago. Well, today's apps and sensors are the same idea, just on steroids. They monitor every single click, every movement, every second, all to squeeze out the maximum possible efficiency, and it often comes at a huge human cost.
And that cost is very, very real. When robots were brought into one Amazon warehouse, the pace of work was suddenly set by the machines. And the result? The serious injury rate for the human workers quadrupled. They were in a fight, as one worker put it, that they just couldn't win.
And don't for a second think this is just happening in manual labor jobs. At Barclays Bank, they installed software to track investment bankers' computer activity. It would even nag them to avoid taking breaks so they could stay in the zone. Unsurprisingly, the employees were furious, and the backlash was immediate.
What's really striking is that this feeling, it isn't new at all. This quote is from striking workers from over 100 years ago, and it shows the exact same sense of humiliation and disrespect. The technology has changed for sure, but that feeling of being treated like a machine has stayed exactly the same.
So the workplace is one thing, but these same tools are also being used to influence entire populations of citizens. And this brings us to what we could call the games of propaganda.
Right here, we see governments using the appeal of video games for their own purposes. The U.S. Army has used its America's Army game series as a powerful recruitment tool for decades now. And in China, there's a game called Homeland Dream, which is a city builder that's just filled with patriotic policies and celebrates national achievements.
But sometimes these scoring systems can have truly disturbing and frankly perverse consequences. In Oakland, a system was designed to get housing to the people who were most vulnerable. But by awarding points for things like addiction and how long you've been on the streets, it created this twisted system where you literally have to prove you are suffering the most just to get help. Okay, so this all sounds pretty bleak, doesn't it? Is all gamification just a tool for control? Well, the author of You've Been Played argues no. And he actually created his own game to prove that there is a better way to do this. This is Zombies Run, a fitness game that became a massive success. And its secret? It wasn't about points or leaderboards. No, it was a thrilling, emotional story that actually made you want to get out there and run.
So what's the difference? What makes this work? Well, here, the reward is the experience itself. The game respects your natural desire to get fit. It doesn't punish you for being slow, and there's absolutely no incentive to cheat because, well, you'd only be robbing yourself of the story. It's all built on a foundation of respect.
And this right here, this really gets to the heart of the entire argument. On one side, you have these systems of control, built on external rewards, and on the other side, you have what the author calls meaningful play, built on compelling stories, respecting our autonomy, and tapping into the motivations that are already inside all of us.
So the crucial point is really this. The next time an app dangles a badge or a little bonus or a spot on a leaderboard in front of you, just take a second to ask yourself, are you playing the game or is the game playing you?